Hello everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and money color commentator. On today's show, gaining control of your finances through budgeting, part 4 in our series on getting your financial house in order, sponsored by LifeSize Solutions and the Society for Financial Awareness. Well, welcome to our 4th segment, gaining control on your finances through budgeting. Now, budgeting is a discipline, and discipline is not an evil word. It's a good word. It can help you with controlling some of your behaviors, and it really shows you where am I spending my money and where is the money going. So I say, let's go ahead and try to develop a mindset. And this is an old phrase I picked up from the internet. This is years ago. I don't know whoever said this, but it's pretty cool. It says, if your outgo is greater than your income, then your upkeep will be your downfall. Let me just say it again. If your outgo is greater than your income, then your upkeep will be your downfall. So when you're thinking about if my money that I'm making isn't paying all my bills, then my downfall is assured. So what I want to do first is I want to develop a budget. Now, everybody says, Steve, what do I need for my budget? And I said, well, basically, when we're looking at a budget, we're looking at basic spending trends. For example, and I'm looking, these are national averages too. This is just, you're looking at food, 12.6%. Now remember, some people pay more or less. I'm just saying these are averages. 12.6% of their budget is food, just groceries. Now remember, I didn't say discretionary spending. I didn't say going out to eat. All I said was it's just basic food. Clothing and services. So if you're looking at clothing and services, it's about 3.3%. And if you're looking at housing, which is the largest, it's 33.4%. Remember, if you have a mortgage, you're not only paying a mortgage, you're paying a house payment, right? In your house payment, you're paying house insurance, you're paying property taxes, and if you belong to an HOA, you're paying that as well. So homes have that fixed cost. What's not fixed in your housing cost is, hey, I have a roof repair, I have an air conditioning that needs to be replaced. I need certain things fixed, maybe not replaced, but repaired. Those are all in that housing. So a housing takes a good third of your paycheck. Even if you're renters, you think about by the time you rent, you pay your utility bills and everything else, that's a chunk of change. So generally, a third is going to be the kind of right around where the national average is. Personal spending. Right now, personal spending could be going out to Starbucks, could be going out to eat, it could be going to a concert. It might be buying personal things like maybe, hey, you're doing for Christmas shopping or holiday shopping. You're doing for birthdays in your family. We have a large family, so I have kids and grandkids. I want to bless them. I want to give them presents. We always have a party. So I want to be able to develop that kind of thing. But that's 19%. Think about that. That's discretionary income. If you were to take out the celebrations of all your birthdays in your family and vacations, and you still have a good chunk of change going to discretionary income, that's the first place I'd go to see if I could retire debt using that former money that was going for personal discretionary spending and try to pay down debt or try to assign that money to savings accounts. Medical. Right now it says that we're paying about 8% of our average, on average, 8% of our medical is the part of our budget. I don't know if that's really true because I know that most Americans are probably paying a little bit more than that. But if they're including seniors that are on Medicare and they're only paying $134 a month apiece, probably that might be a good number. Then transportation. And this could be, remember, it's not just I bought a car. My car has maintenance costs. My car has car insurance costs. My car has another collateral issue like plates. I have different costs all the way down the line. In our state, we have to pay a larger piece of the pie. When you buy a brand new car, your plates cost you way more money. When you start thinking about the cost of a new car, the insurance, and the plates alone, those collateral costs could be the kind of thing where you say, I need to buy a used car or hold on to my old car longer. And then, of course, transportation needs. And then there's another 6% that's in other not quantified categories of spending. So by the time I look at food, clothing, services, housing, personal, medical, transportation, and other needs, there's my basic budget. Now remember, it's not your budget, it's not my budget, it's just the basic natural averages of spending. So the first thing I want to do is develop a budget. And then, this is a tough one. I take all my credit cards and figure out what I'm spending over here. Then I look at all my monthly obligations, and I'm looking at not discretionary spending. The word is called essential spending. I have to have this money just to live. So I look at my essential spending. some of my discretionary spending, and I look at my revenue. And if my revenue isn't covering that, I have a problem. If my revenue is covering it, but I still have debt on top of it, I need to start retiring that debt and setting up an emergency fund. Remember, almost 40% of Americans don't even have $1,000 for an emergency set aside already. So they're cash short. Ask yourself these hard questions. Can I afford my lifestyle? Would it be better to live, instead of living check to check in a gated community where you can't afford it, wouldn't it be better to live in maybe a little lesser neighborhood, a little lesser, maybe the home and some of the accoutrements, that you'd have to maybe cut your own grass, maybe you'd have to do your own pool if you have a pool, or maybe have a home that doesn't. You'd be able to say, can I afford my lifestyle? If the answer is no, there's no shame in living in an area that fits your economic behaviors. What's wrong with that? It's better to live where you have money in the bank and you can always do little things for the kids rather than living someplace where you're stretching yourself and your budget's always elastic and you have to use debt to keep it afloat. Do I need to increase my income? Well, my answer to that is yes. I always need to increase my income. I want to increase my income every chance I get. Some people are working on their normal jobs and trying to develop a Shark Tank mentality where you actually become an entrepreneur and you say, I want to be able to build an idea that I might be able to sell, or a business that I can start out by myself and become my own boss, although I always say that's not always the thrill that it sounds like. But I want to be able to develop some kind of revenue, extra revenue. So some people have added secondary jobs for one reason. They want to be able to develop more revenue to be able to pay down their debt and get out of debt, and maybe look at a 1 to 2 year where they're really working hard, maybe having a second job and doing things that they can do at home as an entrepreneur to generate extra income. And what can I live without? Well, I got to tell you, the hurricanes that have come through the United States in 2017, you're looking at just the basic commodities, whether it's Florida, whether it's Houston, whether it's Puerto Rico, all these places. When you get down to it, people are just, think about this, they're just looking, hey, do I have clean water? Do I have power for air conditioning? Do I have gas for my car? You're talking about basic things that I actually need. If you went through your budget and you said, I have to trim this down, you'd find so many ancillary, totally discretionary funds that are going for things that don't matter and are not necessary. So if I'm trying to get under control, first thing is to have a monster garage sale. The second one is to go through that budget with impunity. I mean, just take out everything that's causing problems and figuring out what can I live without, because until I get to that, I can't get to this. And that's called cash flow management. What can you do to generate more income? Well, we talked about entrepreneuring, maybe having a job on the side, developing your own small business and then seeing it flourish. What skills can you have to generate more revenue? I'm surprised, and this surprises me all the time. I have people that work in jobs that they're really okay, they're okay with it, but they do it because it pays well, but maybe that's not their heart. But I've noticed that people that have taken their heart and made a business around something they really enjoy can have some extra revenue and income because you can see their passion. And people like people that are just in their skill set and in their talent, using it to the point where they actually are generating income. When you can generate a lot of income on something that you actually like, you've hit vocational nirvana. I mean, that's where you want to go. So when I'm looking at cash management, I want to know, is there any way to generate more income? And sometimes in cash management, that means I'm going to reduce my debt load. I'm going to reduce my commitments to monthly subscriptions. I'm going to bring that down so I have cash flow. If you ever watched Shark Tank, Kevin O'Leary has one thing that he always seems to bring up in front of every entrepreneur, and that is cash flow, as he says. Cash flow is a major issue here, and reducing debt and increasing my revenue spreads my cash flow out, and I start to take in money to set aside for retirement, to set aside for buying a home, to set aside for maybe the wedding of my daughter, to set aside for the education of my daughter. Those kind of things are really important. And then building an emergency fund. Now, you've heard me talk about this. We all have insurance policies for life, for medical, for our house, for our car, but most of them carry deductibles. We should have deductibles that take care of this. Now, when I'm talking about building an emergency fund, I want to plan for life's unexpected emergencies and setting up an emergency savings fund. Those emergencies can happen to anyone and any time. And believe you me, in my young marriage, When we first started out, those first 10 years, things happened that I never thought would have happened. And then I want to seek conservative savings vehicles that can keep pace with inflation. Good luck with that. Almost all the funds right now, whether they're CDs, annuities, fixed, a lot of them are not keeping up with actual inflation, but we can do our best to try to match up to that. But at present, it's tough. And then set aside at least 3 to 6 months worth of expenses to help you cope with life's unexpected expenses. I've tried to anticipate some of the things that we want to do, whether it's deductibles for insurance or losing my job and I need to have income saved for 3 to 6 months. But there are other things that you never think of that come online that you say, I never would have thought about that. And with America, 40% of Americans not even have $1,000 for an emergency, you can see that this is where we're sitting in what I call a cash flow crunch. The only way we're staying alive is because we're putting money, we're borrowing our future, trying to pay for today's desires, not today's needs. So when you look at this, you want to be able to gain control of your finances through budgeting. Don't forget to watch our next segment on building your financial future, part 5 in our series on getting your financial house in order. And keep in mind, before moving forward with any of the ideas on our show, always check with your tax consultant, legal counsel, or financial advisor. You've been watching Steve Savant's Money, the name of the game.